Happy 4th of July, everyone. Meteorologist Joe Martucci here at the Press of Atlantic City for another episode of the Something in the Air podcast. It is the first Wednesday of the month. We have Dr. Dave Robinson on, and we are recapping we'll say, smoky, but also quiet month of June. We did have the Wharton State Forest Fire. We also had pretty comfortable temperatures during June. So Dr. Dave Robinson is going to break that all down for us here. We also talk about some coastal flooding. We talk about temperature. We talk about the expansion of how we're teetering on drought. So we got all of that for you. And for the latest South Jersey weather, you can always come to our website, pressofac.com/weather. And also make sure to check out our other podcast, Across the Sky. That's with our Lee Weather team. That comes out every Monday here, audio only. We got video and audio for you, as always, the first and third Wednesdays of the month. So without further ado, let's tune in to Dr. Dave Robinson. Okay, we are now joined by New Jersey State climatologist Dr. Dave Robinson, birthday buddy, weather dad, the whole 9 yards. And for today only, we're almost matching.
Our haircuts or our
I meant our clothes. I feel
color
like
coordination.
Yeah, I feel like color coordination. My hair. I mean, you do have a nice haircut. I did say that earlier. Nice haircut. But I was talking more about the clothes. I feel like we're all in that same.
That's true. There's
family
some
here.
coordination there. Very stylish.
Right. Great minds think alike, as they say. Okay. So the month of June, in short, not too much going on specifically weather-wise, but you can't talk about June here without talking about the Wharton State Forest Fire.
Yeah.
Burned over 13,500 acres, in the top 20 for largest wildfires on record here. It was believed to have started on Saturday, June, looking at my calendar, 18th, but really exploded on the 19th. And it really, I think, doubled and tripled in size in a matter of hours, continued into Monday here. But what's interesting is that you had a big wildfire in June. Usually you're thinking heat and humidity in June. Not the case. That past weekend, it was warm, but it wasn't hot, but it was dry. Dew points were low. It was a little gusty, and that ground was really dry. I pulled up some numbers. Our dew points at Atlantic City International Airport, so not in where the fire is, but close to it, got down to about 37 degrees. That only happens between 1% to 5% of the time in the middle of June. So we were talking about an exceptionally dry day, coupled that with some gusty winds, dry ground. You got yourself some really unfortunate wildfire spread.
Yeah, the only thing really missing were hot temperatures to help dry things out further, as you mentioned. It was windy, humidity was low. Was it all uber dry? No, but in the Pinelands, you just have to go a couple days without rain and things dry out. So that's not a real big factor. We really need timely rains to keep the fire danger down, especially in the Pinelands. So I think really the two major keys were the low humidity and the strong wind gusts. And of course, whoever foolishly didn't extinguish their campfire.
Yeah, the Forest Fire Service was investigating an illegal legal burn for that. There was no conclusion to that just yet, but they were investigating it. So it was just, kind of incredible to see it at the shore even too.
Yeah, well, that's become regular out west. And in this past month, it's been an everyday thing in central Alaska. Fairbanks has been in the smoke almost every day. They've already had one of their top forest fire seasons, and you're not even halfway through the fire season up there. So this year, the torch, terrible choice of words, has been handed to Alaska from New Mexico, where things really got going. Now, New Mexico had very heavy rain, monsoonal rains last week, which helped there, except with flooding. But real concerns as we go through the summer with more fire out west. Here in the east, it's just a matter of a week to week, looking at the conditions, whether we get dry and all. The real fire season in Jersey tends to be in the spring,
Yeah.
but does not make us immune to fire during the summer. So people have to be ultra careful, especially in the Pinelands.
Yeah, Chief McLaughlin, the forest fire chief, was saying that, has been and will continue to be greater concern for a summer forest fire season. Just want to know from a climate perspective, what you think about that in New Jersey.
Well, I mean, the long-term outlook from the Climate Prediction Center is no surprise here, above normal temperatures. Now, our normals now are 91 to 2020. So it's hot, more difficult to get above normal because we're comparing it to a normal period that by itself is very warm compared to the rest of the 20th century, for instance. But looks like warm. Now, precip wise, very, very difficult to project into the future with the way summer rains come from hit and miss thunderstorms or a tropical storm that could sneak up here. But there's some suggestion that rains will be on the average, if not above average side during the summer. So there's no one saying we're headed towards a drought or anything like that, but we are drying out in South Jersey. And today's drought monitor, National Drought Monitor, has taken the abnormally dry category that was sitting in parts of Cumberland, Cape May County into southern Atlantic County and moved it north about 30 miles into eastern Gloucester, Camden, southern Burlington, southern Ocean, and all of Cumberland into eastern Salem. So a little bit of an expansion, no drought, but stream levels are low, groundwater's low, and the precipitation has been 30, 40, even 50% below normal over the last month, with some lingering dryness from earlier periods. So we got to be careful, folks. I mean, use water prudently. Don't go out with fireworks and set them off wildly. And of course, watch your campfires and so on and so forth.
Yeah, that drought monitor area for that abnormally dry conditions was pretty much our Progressive AC core coverage area from like Manahawkin and LBI all the way south to Cape May. Yeah. And I'm just kind of looking at this map, and during the month of June, Atlantic, Cumberland, Cape May were all between 26 to 50% below average for rain. Ocean was actually above average as a whole. I don't know if you can provide some more details. I know sometimes you got the highest and lowest totals, but let's get into that precip. Who was the wettest this June?
It was it was in Lakewood, up in Ocean County.
Yeah,
5.88 inches there. We had one report coming in with over 7 in Toms River, but these are Kokoros observers, and they only observed on days where they reported rain and not on other days. So it's unclear how good that record is, but it's possible there was a localized, they got hit by a couple additional storms of over 7, but a complete record, Lakewood 5.88 was highest for Ocean. Atlantic is 3.88 inches out in Hamilton. 2.01 was the low in Egg Harbor Township. So that's all averaging a little below normal. Yeah. And then down in Cape May, it's interesting. Lower Township at 3.68 was the highest. And just up the road in Middle Township, 1.91 was the lowest. But a lot of that difference came in, I can't remember the date, but there was one shower that came through, and I don't think it got north of the canal. But south of the canal, they got doused one afternoon, and they certainly need it down there, but it didn't spread up even the peninsula, let alone more on the mainland part of Cape May. So below average, not exceptionally below average, This is what we were talking about before we came on. This month, it had a little bit of everything. It had a little tornado over in Camden County. It had some very warm days. It had some chilly days where our Northwest Valley location up in Walpack got down to 37 on the 20th and 21st, or somewhere around there. But it was kind of nondescript. Temperatures are going to come in about average. I just looked today. Atlantic City Airport is coming in 7/10 below average before today, which is going to be a little above, and we're recording on the 30th. But the marine is going to come in 2/10 above, so that's very close to normal.
Yeah, pretty close. Pretty close to normal, and the temps. And we'll get into this. Fairly comfortable month. You're making me think of one thing though. You said the canal, right? So are you familiar with that part, with that sign that says North and South Jersey at the canal? You familiar with that road sign?
No, I'm just familiar with exit 0.
Yeah, you got to check it next time. And I know you're a Cape May guy. You like Cape May. Next time you go down there, look for the sign. It says on the back of a road sign, it says North and South, and anything north of the canal is North Jersey. Just want to know your thoughts on that as the state climatologist and a geographer yourself. Do you find that to be accurate?
I should recruit people to take my Geography of New Jersey course next spring semester, because we talk about that. I think that's stretching it a little bit.
Okay. All right. Just wanted to double check on that with you.
Yeah. And then that omits Central Jersey. And of course, you and I both know there's a Central Jersey.
Absolutely. I think maybe those people might think the canal itself is Central Jersey.
Good point.
So maybe they do have their North, Central, South. But yeah, we do want to get into temps. We're going to get into temps in a little bit. Let's take a brief break here. We'll talk about temps. We want to talk about just how darn comfortable it was this month. And we're going to have some odds and ends for you too. This is the Something in the Air podcast. Welcome back to the Something in the Air podcast, brought to you by the Press of Atlantic City in conjunction with our friends at Stockton University. We are a 2-time New Jersey Press Association Podcast Award winner, and we couldn't do it without New Jersey State climatologist Dr. Dave Robinson in the flesh. We won't talk about our accolades anymore, but we will talk about the accolades June gets for just being kind of comfortable, right? You were just saying before, temperatures about average. So break down the temperatures for us in June and what drove that as well.
Yeah, I said it was kind of nondescript, but another way of thinking about it is a little old fashioned. I've been coming up with some preliminary numbers, and we're going to be a little below normal temperature wise, based on the 91 to 2020 averages statewide. But I compared them to the period of record back to 1895, and we're still on the warm side, but not much. So it's kind of like, the Junes of old. We were pretty dry. So we've talked a lot about high temperatures, low temperatures, and how low temperatures are increasing faster than high temperatures. Not so this month. And whenever I see that, that's indicative of a pretty dry month, less moisture in the air, and that allowed the daytime heating to escape the space at night. And that gives you a little higher climb to get up to high temperatures the next day. So again, kind of there, a little below average, but we had a couple of days, but over 90. But it was interesting. We haven't strung together 3 consecutive days to make it, quote, a heat wave anywhere in the state. So what I like to see with heat, and I'm not a big fan of it, is when you get into the hot weather, you already can see the end of the hot weather. And that's been the case clearly, that you haven't even looked and said, 3, 4, we got to wait 5 days for it to cool off. It's been 1 and out for the heat, or 2 and out for the most part. And again, no place in the state had 3 consecutive days of 90 and above in the month of June.
Yeah, I mean, you know what kind of comes to mind? Do you remember June 17th? That was our hottest day overall. It was a Friday, but the days surrounding it were September like. It was in the 70s
Yeah.
the day before, it was in the 70s the following 2 days after. In fact, I remember on the 18th of June, I was flying back from Milwaukee for our American Meteorological Society broadcast conference. And I was wearing a sweatshirt during the day on Saturday because it was cloudy and it was windy. It was a little bit of a cool wind. So when the sun wasn't out, it was, didn't feel like the middle of June.
No. Well, remember that as we get into July, because
Yes.
that's not going to last the whole time.
No.
Yeah, so that was the nature of the month. And it's kind of what we've talked about, like a broken record for we old folks. For months now, we haven't been able to lock in. It's a very transient pattern we've been in for months now, where many would say that's great. We haven't held on to anything for a particularly long time before handing it off to something different. And that's what I think makes New Jersey's climate so interesting, and palatable, frankly, in some respects. The cold doesn't last too long, the heat doesn't last too long, wet, dry, you name it. You talk to people in the Pacific Northwest, they had a miserable spring. It was just one wet day after another. They were locked in. You talk to people down in the southern part of the country, they got locked into that early season heat dome. And it was one day after the other of heat. And here we are in and out of heat and cool and wet and dry. And I'll vote for that.
Are you saying that other state climatologists might be jealous of you?
Oh, I doubt that.
Okay.
I was at the state climate meeting last week, and Jersey gets picked on, or maybe it's just me that gets picked on.
No, they wouldn't pick on you.
But New Jersey can be the brunt.
Yeah, well, that was when I was at the weather conference 2 weeks ago. A number of people just automatically knew I was from Jersey. They just knew. I wear as a point of pride.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And people are talking about coming to the shore in Jersey. They're like, oh, we're going to Stone Harbor and we're going to Ocean City in the summer. I'm like, hey, all are welcome. But, you can't make fun of us and say I'm going to come to the shore at the same time,
No.
So
speaking of the shore, there were some nice sea breeze days this month as well.
Yeah.
But there was one day, maybe there was the 17th, or it was more recent than that, where the winds were very strong out of the northwest. And they kept things very warm along the shore.
That was the 17th. AC Marina got up to 90. That it might even been 92. I'll have to look. You can let me just look.
I did look, as a matter of fact, it was 92 on the 17th.
Yep.
At the airport, it was 96.
Yeah.
And it was very strong winds coming in from the northwest. That was to help dry things out for the fire just 2 days later.
Yep.
And I read somewhere someone was equating that with warm ocean temperatures because of the warm winds blowing in from the northwest. And that's absolutely wrong climatologically. You get your coolest surf temperatures in the summer when the winds are blowing up from the south or southwest. Ekman flow.
Ekman pumping.
Like, but when they're coming from the northwest, you get which is a cool direction in the air, you get your warmer surf temperatures, and you'd think it just would blow that water offshore and allow the cold water to upwell from below. But because of the way this Ekman pattern, it turns the water towards the shore. And when the winds are from the south, it pushes it off to the east. So it's kind of the irony of the coast. Your hotter days with the humidity during the summer have the coldest surf.
Yep.
Now that the 17th was hot, but that was a different weather pattern that was bringing in offshore winds.
Yeah. I want to ask you a question, and this is coming from your climate site, njweather.org. It seems to me that the Harvey Cedars location is the coolest one at the shore regularly. Is there something to LBI being the coolest spot at the shore, or is it just a matter of kind of where it's placed, and that's just the way
No, it's,
it
you
is?
know, I kiddingly sometimes call the island a buoy. It's out there in the water. You got
Yeah,
Barnegat Bay off to the west, wider there than elsewhere. So that's what, and you know, where our station is at Harvey Cedars, it's a block to the ocean. It's 2 blocks to the bay. It's pretty narrow there. That's the part of LBI that's split during the 62 nor'easter.
yeah,
So it's pretty narrow there. So there's good reason why Harvey Cedars, you know, you can look some days it's up in Seagirt, depending on the exact angle the wind's blowing. Sometimes Seaside Heights, occasion the marina, the
yeah,
AC Marina. And if the winds are blowing from the south, that's when you turn your attention to West Cape May, our station there, but particularly our station in Fortescue, which is right. I mean, I could throw a stone and put it into Delaware Bay from where that station is.
yes. I have been there a couple of times. It is almost on the beach.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's pretty much there. Speaking of Fortescue, you're making me think. Can we get Seabreeze fronts in Cumberland County from the Delaware Bay?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Not just a south wind, you know what I'm saying?
Early in the season, the bay will warm up eventually.
Right,
May always be a little cooler than the land. Look, when the land gets up to 95, the bay isn't 95.
right.
It might be upper 70s to 80. So there's always, and I've already noticed with the sea breeze along the Atlantic coast, it's dropping the temperatures into the mid 70s.
Yeah.
You know, go back 6-8 weeks ago, it was dropping it into the 50s.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so the coast is warming up, the coastal waters, but still, they don't equal the heat that we find on land many, many days during the summer.
Right. Right. Let's just switch gears a little bit. Talk about how comfortable it was in June. We talked about it a couple of times. I had a couple of stats for you, although my email is not working. So I'm going to go off of memory, but I'm pretty confident on this.
Okay.
I'll write in the comments if it wasn't. But in Atlantic City International Airport, this June was our lowest dew points since 2016. And then Millville, when you average June, lowest dew points since 2006 or 2007, either or. Have at it.
I buy it. I'll
Yeah.
buy it. And we've already talked about it with the D0 abnormally dry classification. When you dry out the ground, there's less moisture available to go up into the atmosphere. You've got to bring it in from the bay or the oceans. So it makes a lot of sense. When the ground is dry, the air tends to be dry. That leads to higher high temperatures, fewer clouds, higher high temperatures during the day, and cooler temperatures at night due to that loss of heat through a drier atmosphere.
Yeah.
So it all fits hand in hand. That's what's so interesting about our climate system. All the parts of it are so interrelated.
Yeah, it's very interesting how everything comes to play every day here in New Jersey. And hey, if you for people like us who have great hair, Dave got his new haircut. I didn't get a new haircut, but it's good for the hair too. It's not frizzing out,
I hardly have enough left. As I said, the barber went to town.
Hey, listen, when I know you're just 3 or 4 years older than me, when I get to be your age, if I can have hair like that, that's a beautiful thing. I'll take it.
It's all there. I don't need to put the hat on during.
No hat for you. No hat for you. All right, couple odds and ends. We'll wrap up here. One, we did get a couple of days, and I'm trying to look at my sheet here. We had 2 days of coastal flooding on the 14th and 15th. They were all minor flood stage. It's just a reminder that we do get tidal flooding year round. It doesn't have to be just during your typical nor'easter season. Anything with that?
No, I mean, it's funny. I've been talking several times recently, including this month, to a group where we're talking about nuisance flooding. The flooding, I don't know what the moon cycle was, but I bet you back in those days,
I think it was
onshore winds, but I don't know. The moon may have been full or new.
I think the moon was, I think we had our, what they call strawberry moon
Yeah,
that day as well.
yeah.
And we had onshore winds, and that was all you needed.
So that's all you need with this nuisance flooding there, or sunny day flooding. You don't need a big storm. And we see it in Miami Beach. We see it in Norfolk. We've seen it along the south, all along the Jersey coast. And it's only projected to get far more prevalent as we go through the century. Essentially, it will be a daily event along parts of the Jersey coast by the end of this century. And it's just the low-lying areas that occasionally flood, the low-lying roads and such. It'll be an everyday event at high tide.
Absolutely true. It's something I talk about when we do public events. You know, it's don't focus so much on the major coastal flooding, focus on that nuisance flooding, because that provides daily impacts as well. Let's wrap up with what's going on with the state climate office as we go into July. What was new in June? What are we looking forward to in July?
Well, the newest thing in June was my newest grandson.
There we go. Congratulations.
There we go. That was on June 3rd.
Beautiful.
But we went to the state climate meeting in person, saw a lot of state climatologists last week, and it's great to share stories, share tools and such. So that's always, it's an energizing, informative, and let's face it, we're all nerds there. A very enjoyable, but productive. We all come to the sessions. We're all there. We go out and we talk weather and climate at night. We're in our element, but you know, it was great. It was great to see folks from Delaware, Pennsylvania, New York, out in California, you know, down in the Carolinas and such, and all parts in between. We were continuing to chug along with development of our network. We're out there cutting grass at our networks as the stations as it grows. So, you know, it's kind of no new stations this month, but kind of a typical summer maintenance pattern.
Got it. Are you out there on the tractor cutting the lawn?
No, but I was out at our Kingwood station 2 days ago cleaning a clog in our rain gauge. We have these cylindrical collection areas that go into a tipping bucket mechanism, and they get clogged up. And the best way you know it is when they don't record rain. You'd like to be proactive, but we have 67 stations and a very limited staff because our 2 undergrad interns were out chasing tornadoes at a Rutgers meteorology course this month.
They were having too much fun.
So I was out there. I'm the most overpaid field technician you can imagine. But it's nice. It was a gorgeous day, and I headed out to Hunterdon County, and you know, sometimes we have our host clean these things up. This was at the state police barracks, and I think they had better things to do than go out and clean out a rain gauge.
Right. I would agree with you on that. But hey, it was a nice little drive out to Hunterdon County. Sure, it was nice. Sure, it's nice out there. Was that 78 out to Kingwood?
Yeah, that's about
78 out to Kingwood.
Well,
cool.
No, well, it's actually Route 12 out in Kingwood.
Oh, 12. I'm not too familiar with Hunterdon County. That's like a little shaky for me. But let's wrap it up here for the month of June. Even though there wasn't too much to talk about as usual, we find a way to stuff it all into 30 minutes. So no problems there. We'll be back with Dr. Dave Robinson in the first Wednesday of August. We're going to recap the month of July. That wraps it up for the Something in the Air podcast, brought to you by the Press of Atlantic City in conjunction with Stockton University. Our next episode will be coming on July 20th. This one I've been looking forward to for a while. This is going to be the top weather events in the Bible. We have JMJ Missions based here in South Jersey. Actually, I went to weather school with Anthony McCulloch, one of the 3 people with JMJ Missions. So that's going to be fun. That one's also going to be audio only. So if you usually watch videos, we'll have it in some kind of video form, but it's really audio only. But until then, everybody have a great July. Happy 4th of July, too. We'll catch you in a couple of weeks, and then we'll catch you in the beginning of August talking to Dave Robinson. Take care, everybody.